Here we go now, Hunter Pence. The Apple TV game tonight is Texas and the Athletics. Alana and I will double team. We say hello. Hunter, nice to have you with us. Here's the one ingredient you need to have here in your role, personality, and you were a very fun player to watch, and personality goes a long way. Have you enjoyed the transition here as a broadcaster? Let's start there. Go ahead.
Well, thanks for having me, Chris and Alana. And yes, I've really enjoyed it. I kind of feel like the bird that jumps off and hopes it can fly. Just start flapping your wings and hope you figure it out. But I love watching baseball. I've studied baseball. I like looking at it upside down, inside out, and right side up. And so the opportunity to get to call the game and share the passion of baseball with the fans out there is it's an honor for me.
And Hunter, as Chris mentioned, you have the personality, but another thing you need to have as a broadcaster when you're in the role that you're in is the knowledge of the game, and you certainly do have that. Tell me what it's been like for you to kind of step away from the diamond and go into the booth, because you're not that far removed, and here you are kind of not necessarily having to criticize, but having to, tell it like it is.
Yeah, the criticism part is not something I do great, but I do have the perspective of the player, and I have, obviously when criticism is you have to do it when it happens, but for the most part, I've made every mistake, probably more than any of these that players have. I'm sure some of them have made more than me, but I understand why. I understand what's happened. I understand, the lights, the sun, the wind, how crazy some of these stadiums are bouncing off the wind, where it's like at one point going one direction. So having that weapon in your back pocket of just having all of the experience and so many at-bats makes it really fun to get to tell the story of, what's going on. And also studying, like I came up very old school, and then I studied the whole new school and really got into the science of it and the art of it. So I feel like I have a lot to share and a lot of passion and love for the game. So for me, it's fun to share that unique perspective and what I learned in that long journey.
And now that, Hunter, you were not a cookie-cutter ball player. I mean, that's what makes you fun. You were a little herky-jerky, weird swing, interesting throwing motion. You were very unorthodox and had a very, very successful career. So there's a lot of different ways to cut the apple. I think that's a plus for you, too, trying to evaluate everybody else. What's your take?
Yeah, I think that's one of the beautiful things about our sport is it's like you see all shapes and sizes, and you see people doing it in many different ways. I think one of the coolest things about baseball is there's not exactly absolutes to say that it's absolutely has to be this way or absolutely that way. We've seen teams win in many different ways, and we're constantly seeing the game evolve and change. So I do think that kind of gives me a little bit of an edge as far as just genetics in my body and some of the things, I wasn't able to do it naturally, but I was able to learn some of the biomechanics that go along with a proper swing. But with the Schumann's and the spine and no T-spine flexibility, I had to find my own way. And that's what makes it really fun is there's not one way to do baseball. And I think there's a lot of things happening in the evolution of baseball, whereas, is the whole San Francisco Giants, like the line change, the righty-lefty matchups. I don't think we've ever seen that win a World Series, but we've seen it get to the playoffs a ton. Just there's so many different unique things. They're banning the shift. But to me, you watch the Dodgers who were doing the line shift, and now they have a very everyday lineup, and they've been, leading the National League for the last 10 years. So it's interesting to me to share a lot of these thoughts and baseball, the fact that it's not just done one way and it's constantly changing.
Yeah, it's certainly not one size fits all, Hunter. Just ask Jose Altuve and Aaron Judge, two very different sizes in this game. 2012 is what I remember about Hunter Pence. You get traded to the Giants at the deadline. You did the rah-rah speeches, the pregame speeches, and we had John Miller on this program a couple of days ago. And when talking about the 2022 Giants, he says that there's something about the Hunter Pence effect this year as well. What do you think he means by that?
You know what? I don't really know, but I do know that they really are loving Jock Peterson, that they have a really great clubhouse vibe. Obviously, Captain Belt and him really buying into that and shining that lovely personality that he has. He's one of the funniest people you'll ever meet. And it's great to see him kind of come out of that shell and just take that on. But the Giants just have a ton of personality and uniqueness, and they're not all the same once again. So they're a fun team to watch. They keep finding a way to get it done. Obviously, a tough series there with the Mets. Buck Showalter, you really do. I know y'all already shine light on him, but I just really think he's done a great job of putting that Mets team together, and they're off to a great start. But the Giants are exciting. They have a good clubhouse chemistry, and maybe that's what he's talking about with the clubhouse effect or the Hunter Pence effect.
Hunter, how about the A's here? They've done a nice job. You know, they always overachieve a little bit. They have no fans right now, which is very tricky for them. You know, we don't know exactly where they're going to be long term. Their attendance this week has not been great, but they just keep on going out there, fighting through it. New manager, they got off. They've had a rough road trip to start the year in Philadelphia, Tampa, and Toronto, and still be over 500. That's a heck of a job by them. So let's give the A's some love. As you will tonight. They've done a nice job getting out of the gate. What's your take on that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really expected this when they sold the house, and there's 16 rookie players, and they're in second place in the AL West right now. But they traded away Bassett. They traded away, a lot of their big name players, Chapman. And you're like, okay, they're in a rebuild. And it is a little sad to not see fans because it's one of the more fun places to watch a baseball game. It was extremely fun to play there as an opposing player just because the rowdiness in the outfield, the bleacher creatures, they bring a lot of energy. It's similar to like the Rays when they were doing all of this great stuff with a bunch of players that you didn't know, and they kept winning the AL East. And there's not that many fans in the stands. So hopefully we can get more out there to Oakland to watch this young team. Mark Kotze's done a good job. Once again, super young lineup, but they're competing. They're in second place. They're a game out of first place in the AL West. And yes, it's early, but did they do it again? Did they create that magic with a lot of players they knew were good that the rest of the baseball world didn't know about?
And Hunter, on the other side, you have the Texas Rangers, who spent $500 million on their infield, of course, and Marcus Semien and Corey Seager, but they certainly need pitching. John Gray was their opening day starter. He is on the IL. Otto goes for them tonight. What needs to change to make this team competitive in the AL West?
Listen, you're looking at the Angels right now in first place in the AL West. And when we talked to Madden to start the season, he said, our pitching is going to surprise you. And the Angels were the epitome of position player, all these big contracts. Well, yeah, we got Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, who has been top 3 in the ML and the MVP voting 2 of the last 3 years. They're going to make a difference, but the golden rule in baseball is pitching wins championships, and good pitching beats good hitting more times than not. So they're going to have to find pitching to back up this great core middle infield, and they have a lot of young hitters as well and good talent. You look at Nathaniel Lowe over there doing great things to start this season. But at the end of the day, if you're in the bottom ranks in pitching, you can't out-hit, being last in pitching. It doesn't happen. You watch the playoffs, it's the top ERAs are going to be in the playoffs, and they're going to be the teams competing to win a World Series championship. You have to pitch.
No question about it. Look at the Giants with their starting pitching. Last thing for me, Hunter, it's tricky with this game of week thing. A lot of these teams, fans always, they get very homespun and they get very personal with their broadcasting crew. And so you have to parachute in, and the Texas Ranger fan doesn't know if Hunter Pence knows his team. So that's a very tricky situation you're in, trying to get to know a couple of ball clubs when the local guys are not doing the games. And so far you've done well with that. Let me hear your thoughts. Go ahead. Let me hear.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge to parachute in and jump in, and obviously a lot of respect to the local teams and the local broadcasters. But it is, for me, it's a great opportunity to jump in and really get to know and do the research before you go in on the teams. Obviously, y'all talked about me being fresh out of the game. I played with a lot of these Rangers. I played for Chris Woodward. I played against a lot of these, the A's and Elvis Andrews. So I do have a lot of interesting things to talk about. Playing for the Rangers, I hope some of those fans remember the 2019 season and growing up there. So I have a lot of cool things and stories to share there. So for me, it's just it's a joy. It's a joy to be a part of, getting to talk on the different teams and getting to learn all of them and get the pulse. So I'm just excited. And like I said, when you love what you do and you're having fun doing it, it's typically fun to watch. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to show my passion for the game of baseball, my knowledge, and have a blast with a great team that they put together with Hagney Watney, Katie Nolan, and Steven Nelson. So we're here to have a good time every Friday night. It is a challenge to parachute in, and it is a lot of work and research, but that's what I'm here for.
All right, Hunter Pence, he who dares wins. I see that behind you. Show me an example of how you've done that in a game.
I think Boch actually kind of inspired this. Every manager I had played for before I played for Bruce Bochy, bringing up the old guys, we need to get him back out there if he wants to. But they all were like, play conservative, don't make a risky play. As soon as I came over to play for Boch, his first message was step on the gas. I don't care if we lose, go for it. He was this big risk taker. And if you watch Boch's team, this is why he led 3 World Series championships with the San Francisco Giants, the Padres. And it's like the old question, do you want consistency or do you want like potential MVP and maybe a really bad year? Well, Boch wanted all or nothing. And when you risk it and you take big risks, you can get it all, but you can also get nothing. And I just love that mentality because he wanted everything. And it just made me a more free baseball player to have a manager that was willing to let you take a risk. And I was always just kind of aggressive as it was and liked to take big swings and to, go for the bag when it mattered and to dive and make a play. So for me, I think it's just that message is like, don't be afraid to mess up. Don't be afraid to fail. Go and dare and go and get it and learn your lesson if you do fail.
Good job, Hunter. Good personality. Enjoy the ball game tonight. We'll see you all year long on Friday nights. Thanks very much, pal. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Alana. Y'all have a good one.